Greetings traveler, this is the Challenger and welcome to my channel. Today I am playing Diablo 2 Resurrected as a Druid, but as my main damage source I will use Arctic Blast, which is arguably one of the worst, if not the worst skill in the game. Now if you are wondering, what in God's name is Arctic Blast? It is that skill that you have to take before you get to the good stuff, mainly Tornado and Hurricane, so let the challenge begin. Rules: using Arctic Blast as my main damage source, using charms and sockets. Run ends with killing Bale on Hell. This is hardcore run, 1 life, no deaths. Arctic Blast is one of the 3 cold damage spells that Druid has access to, other 2 being the Hurricane and Summon Spirit Wolf. It is also one of the very few spells in the game that are channeled, meaning you need to hold down the button for it to actually do anything. It breathes icy torrent of wind that chills and freezes the enemies and does cold damage every second, but it is also extremely mana hungry. With Diablo 2 Resurrected this skill was reworked a bit, and Hurricane synergy was removed, but scaling and base damage was also increased. So let's see how much of a meme it is, or maybe it isn't. Because Arctic Blast is available at level 6, I need to get there first, and its only synergy is Cyclone Armor, which is level 12. I will need to dump my points into something else meanwhile. For now, let's try to get as much skill points as possible, so venture into the Den of Evil to cleanse this foul place and destroy Corpse Fire, the master of spectral hit. I really like those early stages of the game, when levels are flowing, monsters are dying in a single weapon swing, and every item feels like an upgrade. With that said, I need to defeat Bloodraven to get some additional firepower. Huh, that's funny. I actually never realized she is a demon amongst the undead. Thought she was one too. Nevertheless, she is dead. And for that I get Basanti, fire-oriented rogue archer. Finally level 6. So I can take my glorious frozen ray of death, Arctic Blast. Nice thing is that you can redirect this to any direction you like while also channeling the spell. Second spell is Oak Sage, which will provide more health for me and my allies. Perfect first target. Wow, this is not bad. I mean, it is cumbersome to use as I need to stand in place, but damage overall is not bad at all. As a kid I used this spell in such fashion, just spin around to just hit everything. Currently it is working so much better than then. Damn, I'm lucky. I found this magic wolf head and it provides +1 to Arctic Blast. I love you game. So now I am equipped to free Cain from the clutches of his old home. Another thing about Arctic Blast is that in its initial levels it has really short range, and with every level that frozen flamethrower extends its blast zone. My god, Doors seems to be my best ally here. Monsters just melt in those, or rather shatter. That said, I need a couple more runes to get much needed gear to make this one work. Wow, that was pathetic on the side of Smith. Well, I also didn't remember that Bone Ash is actually cold immune, so the more you know. Level 12 brings another skill and another synergy to Arctic Blast, and that is Cyclone Armor. It provides flat amount of mitigation against fire, cold and lightning damage. Andariel fight took exactly 30 seconds. I drank some potions to constantly regain mana and she disrupted my cast several times. That said, I managed to just breathe at her with my Mental Fresh Gust and defeat the Spider Queen. I got myself Hassin with Prayer Aura for some additional healing and someone to hold the front line. These fights kinda look silly. There's a guy basically breathing on you with very cold wind and Radamant is just standing there taking it. Damn, it feels good to use this and just freeze everyone in their tracks. I'm honestly flustered at this stage how good it is, and I am also sure it will fall off hard later on. Because Arctic Blast hits everything on its path, it works amazing in places like Maggot Lair, where monsters are just huddled together. Freeze, you maggots, freeze! Oh, the big one is again cold immune, so Hassin, do your job. I completely disrespected Fangskin to the point I didn't know he died, and proceed to get Viper Amulet, so now I am free to go to town and make myself stealth armor since I am 17 already. It should help immensely with usage of Arctic Blast, faster cast rate, mana regen and that sweet faster run walk for repositioning. Okay, Duriel time. And wow, this works much better than anticipated. With Thawing Potions drank, Hassin's resistance is enough to get him alive through the fight, with all the healing and damage is surprisingly good. At first I thought he didn't drop anything good, but there are magic antlers here and holy shit! 3 to Arctic Blast and 2 to Cyclone Armor? Man, that is literally the greatest helmet ever! Damage is kind of unbelievable at this point, and I found another good item, a magic amulet with 10 to all resistances. In Spider's Cave I found my first Jade figurine for that sweet life boost, and then proceed to freeze Shark to death and grab the eye from the chest. I was really hoping to get some faster cast rate ring from Ormus, but some more mana and fire resistance won't hurt either. While battling Witch Doctor and Dugu for the right to claim the Brain of Kalim, a green saber dropped, which is part of Angelic's set. Right after that I ventured to sewers to grab the heart, and then quickly bashed everything in Ruined Temple to get Lamb Essence book for additional 5 attribute points. One of the monsters before the council drops set light plated boots, which are Vidala's Fetlock, that grants 30% faster run walk. With ability Shrine, even Torque, who is cold enchanted, didn't stand much chance against me. Mephisto was kind of like Duriel, in a sense that I was relentlessly trying to keep my mercenary alive, to do all the tanking, while I was dishing insane amount of damage. It actually took me entire belt worth of potions to kill him, and he also dropped a unique chain boots, which are Threads of Chthon. I'm only level 22, and this so far has been kind of easy? I know, I am as surprised as you are. Yep, yeah, that's what I thought. Usual is almost made out of this stuff. Well, this is going to take a while. I decided to just keep him chilled until Hassin do enough damage to finish him off. It is really hard sometimes to gauge the range of the Ray of Frozen Death. Certain angles will simply obscure the view and it will show as if it was faded. That said, Hephasto is dead and I only got an If rune from the forge. This is a very satisfying feeling to be a menacing Chaos Sanctuary and just put everyone to rest, especially Infector. With that nasty slow from Arctic Blast, I can chill every Venom Lord and eventually shatter their form. With Diablo, there was no possibility to keep my helpers alive. He deals too much damage and he moves so much, so whole fight was basically running around and baiting him with Oak Sage, so I could at least do some damage. I cannot have a standoff with him that I breathe ice and he lightning. I would be dead in seconds. But that said, I managed to take him down and he dropped a set military pick, which is a weapon from Tancred's set. Freeze, you bastards, hands behind your backs. You won't comply? Then check out my icy breath. I see that Eldritch disrespected me by dropping a set full helm, which I won't even pick up at this, it is Eyes and Hearts. Unlike fire spells, there isn't really a cheap rune word for cold related abilities. I think the earliest one that you can specifically impact those is Voice of Reason, which requires Lamb and it lowers cold resistance of the enemies, so I am probably just end up making some plus to all skills things. Aside from the scroll, I was actually hoping that Anya would give me some nice rare druid specific belt that could rival my current one, but well, what she gave me can only land in the dumpster. I was looking for the portal in Ancient Swale while this beautiful fall rune dropped. I will be able to use it later for some massive upgrades. Then in Nilatak's temple I found another beautiful rune, but this time it was Soul. Well, the aforementioned Nilatak is very much resistant to cold damage, and he can only feel a slight breeze from my blast. Fortunately, I can still slow him down, but that idiot is teleporting all around the area, avoiding the wrath of Hassin's spear. I was so underleveled at this point that those higher level areas were not giving me any experience, so I had to do some farming. And while doing so, I found a Lochaber axe with 3 open sockets and decided to make Malice for my mercenary for some additional damage. I also found this pretty beastly rare ring with double resistances, some magic find and whopping 32 energy, and also this rare amulet drop which backs both of those resistances. This was, I think, the funniest Ancients fight ever. They are not doing that much damage to me, so I can just stand in place and take it to the face, and I positioned them in a line so all 3 of them would be hit by the blast and proceed to kill them one by one. Funny that Madak was actually last in line. Look at this total annihilation. That was literally every wave aside from minions. Those were tough, but a little run and gun and they were meeting Mistress Death in no time. Bale was taking surprisingly good amount of damage from the blast, but in the same time he was really annoying with killing an Oak Sage, and at one point he also dropped my Merc. After revive, the fight wasn't much, just a lot of chill and Bale is down. He dropped a set war sword which is Death's Touch. My gear and setup by the end of normal. Now to get some additional points, but before going to Den of Evil, one of the elites in Bloodmoor dropped a unique ring that was Manal's Heal. And quickly after that I made a sweep of the cave for additional skill point. That is pretty nice magic amulet. If those would be druid skills, I would consider a change. So I rescued Kane, and since I am almost capped at synergy for Arctic Blast, I would need to find some other ways to improve my damage. It seems like it is good time to farm Countess for a bit. Well, that was quite nice. First run got me Amn and Soul. Exactly what I need. Now just a good base. Amazing. Another Amn rune on the way to Countess. And on the way to Monastery a longsword dropped. And well, what do you know? 4 open sockets. Perfect. I think I will need to reassign my points a bit to wield it. So now on to making Spirit Sword. Tal, Thul, Ord, Amn. Not the greatest roll, but plus to all skills, 28% faster cast rate, lots of vitality and mana. This should help plenty with already falling damage. Surprisingly, with Spirit and enough mana from all the items, I don't really feel I need Insight to constantly regenerate mana, and damage is good enough to kill everything fast enough. Yeah, this is exactly what I feared. Damage against monsters is still nice, but bosses, that is a different tune. I had to revive my Merc 3 times just to have someone to hold Andariel off. while I am blasting. In the end, I did a little run around to finish her off. Damn, that was unexpected. I literally cannot kill Radamant. He was cold enchanted and cold immune, and my mercenary is not powerful enough to kill him, so I will come back to that. Man, I am really lucky with the drops in this run. A unique heavy belt dropped in the desert, and that is of course Gold Wrap, which packs great 30% magic bonus find, and another drop in the next zone. Poor man's Shaco, which is Peasant Crown. I would gladly wear this if it wasn't for mine insane antlers. Jesus, what is going on? Another drop, and this time a set Jagged Start, which is Allur's Rhythm from Druid specific set. Sadly, the weapon is tailored rather toward melee attackers. Oh man, with the current range this looks like pipe cleaning or something. So I did just that. I cleaned this filthy place to grab the Staff of Kings yet again. I made my way through Sanctuary and froze Summoner to death, and he dropped me a nice large charm that grants 30 to life. Pretty good at this stage. Before moving to Duriel, I paid a visit to Radamant once again, and this time he wasn't cold immune, so I shattered him with ease, claiming another skill point. Now I have 4 skill points and have one hell of a dilemma. Where do I want to put them? Do I max out Hurricane for more cold damage, or maybe Summons for more bodies to cover? Maybe Spirit Wolves to make this cold build only, or Grizzly for an additional tankiness? I think I will put 1 point into Hurricane and 1 into Grizzly and then max out the Wolves. Let's see how this will go. Hurricane is a curious spell. It creates ring that freezes everything it touches and do some cold damage. Usually this is just used for crowd control and survivability. And holy shit, this is probably the shortest path to Chamber ever. Just before Duriel I leveled up and picked those Spirit Wolves summon, and I am also glad I did, because they made this fight possible. My damage was so bad, but it was still doing something, so wolves were just distraction for the main damage dealer, Wahid. I had to visit the town once as I ran out of potions, and when I came back Duriel unfortunately killed my merc, but he was already low enough that I was able to just finish him myself. And what do you know? He dropped another Gold Wrap. In the first 5 minutes of this act I managed to get Jade Figurine and Eye of Kalim in Spider's Cave. Well, that was quick. Damn! I got to Flair's jungle straight from Spider's Forest, and first bend was actually the way to Gitbin, so I instantly turned the dagger into the ring, and it wasn't bad. It has 10% faster cast rate, but other than that, it isn't that great. If there is Gitbin, so it's Flair's dungeon. Quickly delved into the dungeon and grabbed the brain after a quick duel with Endugu. I don't think I ever traversed the jungle so quickly. It took me like 15 minutes to get all I need and find Lower Kurast. In that area I found a portal, and near that there was bonfire huts. So it's time for a little farming, and what do you know? First drop was actually a Cow rune. Unfortunately, after several runs that Cow rune was one and only good thing that dropped. So I moved to Ruin Temple to ruin the day for Battlemate's Arena and get the Black Book. I grabbed this white battle scythe there too and decided to try to add sockets to it, since I couldn't find a base, and fortunately I rolled 4 open sockets and did an insight for my mercenary, which would help with his damage and me with my mana regeneration. This is unbelievable. That is so lucky to get such good buffs in every single area. I feel like I'm bypassing half of this act. Wolves were not cutting it, so I took a point into Grizzly for another tank on the front, and with all that we managed to put down the council into the ground. Nice! Although I would prefer staff on the swap, an amulet with teleport chargers is always a welcome sight. Mephisto fight wasn't much. I almost managed to keep my merc alive through it, but failed just by the end, and Grizzly had to take over the distraction. Unfortunately, damage is falling off hard at this point, and I am already feeling very uneasy about Hell. You see this? How straightforward one playthrough can be. Really? Isual 2 just behind the gate? I'm almost certain that it will hate me in Hell once I get there. This is also the first time I am encountering Burning Souls in this run. As you can see, Hurricane is quite good at catching those in their tracks and slowing them down. Damn, what a find! What a gorgeous drop! One of the elites dropped this beautiful, unique round shield, which is of course Moser's Blessed Circle, one of my all-time favorite shields. Now to deal with Hellsmith, and the bastard had to be called enchanted. He just had to. But he still can be slowed down, which gives me a bit of an advantage. Unfortunately, I only got a dull rune from the forge. Sanctuary this time around isn't much of a pain. Vizier died in seconds and Lord Desace wasn't much of a threat either, but as luck would have it, one of the knights dropped me another core rune. I underestimated Infector. I thought he would die sooner, but they boxed me in. I had to quit out and start all over. And this time around I lured them outside the alcove, slowed down and shot Infector dry. Diablo wasn't much. He was of course not taking a lot of damage, but the fight itself was relatively safe. I just had to resummon Grizzly now and then. Sometimes the bear even positioned itself in a way that lightning breath was not touching him, so it was prolonging his life a bit. As per usual, I started with clearing Shank and he dropped a rare burnt wand. I am always picking those to sell, but this one is a curious one. It has triple resistances on it and they are not small numbers. This is quite good, but mostly surprising. That will be useful. I found an ethereal great helm with 3 open sockets. Once I get proper rules, I will be able to get my merc a good upgrade. And oh my, another great base. This time a 4 open sockets ethereal back the carbine. Another nice find was in Crystalline Passage. Got myself a unique ring. This time it was Dwarf Star. Before rescuing Anya, I did another insight for my merc in the back the carbine I found earlier, and it almost doubled his damage. With that we are able to clear the Yetis guarding Anya. I mean, Wahid was able, I was useless beyond belief. It took a good minute to get some manageable modifiers on Ancients, but once that was done, it was like a walk in the park, and once again, Madak was the last one to fall. Once again, only Lister and his troop were bulky enough to last a bit longer, but thankfully massive damage from my mercenary helped immensely this time. Bale was really annoying. Most of the times he was summoning his clone and I wasn't up to fight 2 of them, so I had to wait in town until it was despawned. I made an exception for the last bit, as he was so long when he did a mirror image that I thought I could take both of them at the same time. But the clone actually teleported away, leaving the real one on his own. And as gracious as he is, he dropped a set death mask, which is Talrasha's Horadric crest. Great budget option for mercenary. My setup by the end of Nightmare. After the Bale fight, I did some farming for levels and runes, and I found an Io rune, and on the next run a Shale rune, which is much needed, and with those I finally was able to create Bulwark helmet for Hassin. One thing that I could do now is to create Rhyme Shield for Cannot Be Frozen, but I don't feel it's something I need. Instead, I put 2 perfect diamonds into Mother's Blessed Circle to massively boost my resistances. That was to be expected. Low damage on monsters that I can actually hurt, and the ones I cannot touch due to resistance or immunity had to be taken out by my henchmen. Hell is starting rough. Okay, it feels impossible for now. Let's go back to some farming. I really needed some gear that grants me +2 skills, so I started farming Andariel in hopes to drop Skin of Viper Magi. But just before the fight I picked up a perfect pair of Chance Guards, and on the same run boss dropped me a pair of Frostburn Gauntlets. That's not bad, although it won't help my build sadly. Unique Demon Hide Sash, String of Ears. But on the other hand, it packs some physical damage reduction which might be useful later on. Also, I realized that my helpers will need much more damage, so I hired Emilio with Might Aura so we can deal with cold immunities much quicker. Finally, I found the replacements for my Threads of Chthon, these rare chain boots found in one of the terror zones. I leveled to 70, switched my gear a bit to include String of Ears and Peasant Crown for some more defense, and went hunting to hell. Emilio and Bear are tanky enough to withstand a lot of punishment, and they can dish out respectable damage, with me in the back chilling and freezing monsters. My own damage sadly is not great. I don't have anything to lower resistances of the enemies, and not enough equipment pieces with +2 skills, so my role devolved into glorified support. Since Woodfist and his cronies are immune to cold, I had to do a little bait and switch to grab the scroll and run for my life. Going back to town, I decided to search Akara's goods in hope to find a wand with lower resist charges. It will prove invaluable against bosses. Smith spawned with Stone Skin, so you can see that really most of the damage comes from me, and lower resist is doing their job just fine. Andariel time. She deals quite a lot of damage to Emilio and my bear, to the point that I had to go back to town just to drink some antidotes and restock on potions. Going back, it was pretty standard. Stand close enough for Hurricane to deal damage, cast lower resist when she is not cursed, and just blast away with Arctic Breath of Cold Death. Skill points are still useful, so into sewers again. And why I cannot find something like this for Druid or elemental skills? Never lucky. Or am I? Right after that I found a set mesh boots, Natalia's Soul. Very nice budget option. Radament was awful. So awful that I was wondering to actually skip him. He was cold immune, and breaking his immunity was still not doing much, so physical damage mostly. He was also teleporting around, making this fight last like 15 minutes. I am not using teleport stuff yet, as I don't feel that it is needed. There is no brick wall, and fortunately Maggot Lair was no exception. It took some time, but eventually I managed to get through and get the staff. Everything in Claw Viper Temple is cold immune, so I just was hanging around in the back, cheering at my helpers from the backline until I was able to get the amulet. I was really considering getting the teleport stuff for both Arcane Sanctuary and Talrasha's Tomb, but in both cases I was lucky enough that got to Portal on the first try. Duriel was surprisingly safe. I mean, I literally need to squint my eyes to see his health dropping, but lower resist and constant assault from 3 sides is doing its job. Still, the most important part of the whole fight is keeping my Emilio alive and resummon Bear whenever possible, as Duriel liked to knock back nearest opponent and switch targets, allowing some breathing room for healing. Oak Sage is really giving me a lot of health, but this stupid spirit can be killed rather easily, so every bit of HP counts in hardcore. Another Jade figurine never hurts. Ormus gave me a pretty interesting ring for Gitbin. Lots of dexterity and strength, 27% cold resistance, and even some life and attack rating. Might prove useful eventually when I find the Monarch for Spirit. Not without issues, but I got all the parts of Kalim and moved to Travinkel to finally deal with the Council for the last time. And they were a bit problematic. Hydras they are casting do a lot of damage, but one by one I lured them out and killed them. Except Torque, who is immune to cold and also spawned with Stone Skin. They were killable quite easily, and I was free to finally delve into Durance. Mephisto was taking more damage from cold attacks than Duriel, but he also did a significantly more damage than the latter. And also did it in 4 different ways, so keeping Emilio alive was much harder, and at times impossible, even with thawing potions and antidotes. Eventually we dealt enough pain for him for the Lord of Hatred to fall into obscurity. My Merc desperately needed an armor upgrade, but I couldn't find a suitable base, so I tried adding sockets to this Balrog skin I found, but sadly got 4 open sockets. So when life gives you lemons, let's make lemonade. I did socket it with 4 runes to boost his resistances, making a bit of a makeshift masterpiece. Plains of Despair greeted me with souls, and I was really tempted to reset that. But I managed to find an entrance to the next area quite quickly, and Isuel was near, so once I did clear everything, it was smooth fight with the Fallen Angel. I wasn't really keen on pushing through River of Flame normally. Instead, I took that amulet with teleport charges I got earlier in the run and put it to good use. Through this entire run, I tried to gamble and craft some good caster amulet. I think I did more than 10 crafts and every single one was not for Druid. The best that came from the gambling was teleport charges amulet and this 32 all resistances amulet. Every time I have to sweep this place in hell, it is usually the lowest point of the whole run, and here it is even worse. Not only I am doing minuscule damage, but to add the salt to injury, Oblivion Knights are cold immune, thus making chasing them the worst. In a difficulty where everything is well difficult, it's good to know that Grand Vizier is still trash. Infector was kind of funny, as Emilio died almost instantly, but Grizzly was holding fast. And with combination of lower resist and resummoning the bear, I was able to drag them out through the sanctuary and eventually snipe the infector. For Diablo, it is really important that Bear is on one side and Emilio on the other, so the attacks will only harm one helper at a time, although his Ring of Fire will always one-shot my Oak Sage. I almost managed to keep Emilio alive through the whole fight, but just at the end, Diablo did cast a Firestorm, killing my poor spearman, so I had to kill Lord of Terror with just Bear. This challenge is a bit tiresome, and not because the build isn't fun, but because it is, and I just don't have enough gear to make it work. Although I got very nice drops throughout the run, most of them are not really adding anything. Yes, make me even more useless than before. Everything here is cold immune. My goal with Ancients was for them to not have Cursed or Stone Skin. I managed to separate Talik and well, he was cold immune, so Emilio and Grizzly, take it away. After that I realized that Korlik was also cold immune, as he always is, so only target for me realistically was Madak, and I did a good job with that, and then my dynamic duo finished the last of them. Level 3 of Worldstone Keep had to be the worst, basically due to the fact that Stygian witches are physical immune, and for me it would take ages to kill them and getting out alive. Waves were mostly fine, aside from of course minions, mostly due to their immense health pool and resistances, but nothing that good strategy can fix. My god, I don't think I have ever got worse Bale fight. Not only he has gargantuan health pool, he was also teleporting all the time, and summoning his clone even more frequently. Moreover, his Snowpiercer attack disrupts my Arctic blasting, so he was constantly preventing me and my guys from dealing any damage, but if he stands perfectly in place or at least teleporting only a short distance, I can do some damage and it is not bad. I'm not gonna lie, whole fight took like 30 minutes, and I did several trips to town because of those stupid clones. I took a water from the kitchen at least twice just to hydrate, it took so long. For my troubles I was rewarded with unique cleaver, which is of course Butcher's Pupil, great option for the melee character. And my setup for the last time. You know what? My curiosity got the better of me, because I finished the challenge, I decided to do something more. I grabbed some gear from my stash and created several pieces. Finally, I gambled some good amulet, and with that I decided to test once more. My Arctic Blast and Hurricane are doing a lot more damage now, so let's see how this fares, with what I would consider pretty reasonable upgrades. And well, the result is unsatisfactory. With just skill levels, this is not cutting it. But what if I change Heart of the Oak for Voice of Reason? It provides minus 24% enemy cold resistance, and yeah, it's better but still not great. Overall the build just needs more of everything. Skill points, minus 10 enemy cold resistance, and cold damage overall. Well, what can I say? I am honestly surprised that Arctic Blast did that well. Until the end of Nightmare. In Hell, unless you have very good gear with a lot +2 skills or best in slot gear with lowering enemies' resistances and boosting your own cold damage, it becomes lackluster at best. Worst thing is that even though its scaling and initial damage was improved in Resurrected, one of its synergies was cut. But if that would be left in the game, I think it would be entirely fine and build would be at least viable for the full playthrough without extensive gearing. Another thing is that this skill is channeled, so in fights like Bale you can be constantly interrupted, preventing you from dealing any damage, but then again, I don't think this build is really tailored toward bosses. That said, together with Hurricane it is unbelievably good crowd control tool that can chill entire packs of monsters in moments, and you can really feel nothing can kill you, as most of the time you are fighting flies that roll in the molten tar levels of speed. Yeah, I was expecting much worse, but if you didn't play Druid for a while, give this skill a try, at least in normal. You will be surprised. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more gaming videos and challenges. Challenger departs.